What if copying others is the worst path to success? Real innovation doesn't take you from 1 to N. It takes you from 0 to 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to Read Glow, the channel where we break down powerful books that sharpen your mind and fuel your ambition. Today, we're diving into a modern business classic, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and an early investor in Facebook. This isn't just a book about startups. It's about how to create something truly new in a world full of copycats. This book challenges you to think differently and build the future. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a dreamer, or someone stuck in a routine, this book can change the way you think about success. Let's break it down, chapter by chapter. Chapter 1, The Challenge of the Future. Peter Thiel begins the book by explaining the core idea behind the title 0 to 1. He argues that there are two types of progress, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal progress refers to copying things that already work, like expanding existing technology to new markets. This is going from 1 to N. Vertical progress, on the other hand, is about creating something new and innovative, going from 0 to 1. Thiel stresses that creating something new is significantly harder and more valuable than replicating what already exists. He believes that the future depends on such vertical progress. Every new technology or startup that creates something unique and revolutionary contributes to building this future. He criticizes the current mindset where people believe that there's nothing new to invent and that all big things have already been discovered. Thiel challenges readers to be ambitious, to believe that the future can be better than the present, and that individuals can help create that future through innovation and bold thinking. Thiel also introduces the idea of definite optimism versus indefinite optimism. A definite optimist believes the future can be known and shaped through planning and hard work. An indefinite optimist hopes for the best but lacks a plan. Thiel argues that America has shifted from being definitely optimistic to indefinitely optimistic, leading to a lack of innovation. In essence, this chapter is a call to action. Thiel urges entrepreneurs to think about what valuable company they can create that doesn't already exist. He wants people to move away from competing in crowded markets and instead of focus on doing something new, bold, and different. The chapter sets the tone for the rest of the book by highlighting the importance of innovation and creativity in shaping the future. Thiel makes it clear that going from 0 to 1 means more than just making money. It's about building a better future. Chapter 2, Party Like It's 1999. In this chapter, Peter Thiel discusses the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s and early 2000s. He uses this event as a cautionary tale to explore the mistakes that entrepreneurs and investors made during that time and how those lessons have wrongly shaped startup thinking today. Thiel explains that during the dot-com boom, many startups were built on hype rather than real value. Companies were focused more on growth at all costs rather than building strong foundations or sustainable business models. This reckless optimism caused massive investment in companies with no clear path to profitability. When the bubble burst in 2000, it led to a wave of bankruptcies, layoffs, and disillusionment in the tech world. After the crash, entrepreneurs and investors drew 4 key lessons: make incremental advances, avoid bold ideas, stick to safer, smaller improvements, stay lean and flexible, don't make long-term plans, be ready to pivot, improve on competition, build businesses by copying others and competing on minor differences. Focus on product, not sales. If your product is good, it will sell itself. Thiel argues that all 4 of these lessons are misguided. While they might prevent catastrophic failures, they also discourage innovation and big thinking. He says that true success comes not from playing it safe, but from daring to build something entirely new, something that creates a monopoly by being truly different. He offers 4 counter lessons. It's better to risk boldness than triviality. A bad plan is better than no plan. Competitive markets destroy profits. Sales matter just as much as the product. Thiel believes that the fear of repeating past mistakes has made entrepreneurs too cautious. Instead of learning to build better companies, the post-bubble era created a culture of risk aversion. He encourages readers to break away from this mindset and instead focus on thinking independently, making definite plans, and aiming to create new, valuable monopolies. This chapter reinforces the theme of vertical progress from Chapter 1 and introduces the idea that avoiding failure isn't the same as creating success. In Thiel's view, true innovation requires vision, courage, and long-term strategy, not just a good product or the ability to adapt quickly. Chapter 3. All happy companies are different. In this chapter, Peter Thiel presents one of the book's most important and controversial ideas. All happy companies are different, but all unhappy companies are alike because they fail to escape competition. This is a direct challenge to the commonly accepted wisdom that competition is good for business. Thiel argues that truly successful businesses are not those that simply survive in competitive markets, but those that create something so unique and valuable that they face no real competition. In other words, great companies achieve success by building a monopoly, a situation where they are the only provider of a particular product or service. According to Thiel, monopoly is not a bad word. In fact, he sees monopolies as essential for innovation. A monopoly business generates sustained profits, has the freedom to think long-term, and can invest in its future. It doesn't need to worry about rivals eating away at its margins or copying its innovations. He gives examples like Google, which dominates the search engine market, and Apple, which created a near monopoly with the iPhone in its early years. These companies didn't win because they were better at competing. They won because they escaped competition altogether by being fundamentally different. In contrast, businesses that operate in competitive markets are constantly fighting for survival. They can't afford to think long-term, often cut corners, and rarely have the time or resources to innovate. Thiel calls this the perfect competition trap, where companies become indistinguishable and fight over price, which leads to lower profits and little differentiation. Thiel explains that the most dangerous thing a startup can do is to fail to ask whether it's building something new and valuable. If a business is indifferent, it's just part of the crowd. Startups must seek to answer this crucial question: what valuable company is nobody building? Ultimately, Thiel believes that building a monopoly should be the goal of every startup. But this doesn't mean using unfair tactics or exploiting customers. Instead, it means building something so innovative and useful that no one else can compete with you. Not because you block them, but because they can't match your unique value. Chapter 4. The Ideology of Competition. In Chapter 4, Peter Thiel challenges a deep-rooted societal belief that competition is inherently good, not just in business, but in education, careers, and culture. He argues that competition, far from being a driver of progress, often distracts people from doing meaningful work and leads to mediocrity. Thiel starts with a bold claim: competition is an ideology, the ideology that pervades our society and distorts our thinking. From a young age, we're taught to compete in schools, sports, and jobs. As a result, people are conditioned to follow paths where they try to outdo others instead of creating their own unique path. This creates a cycle where everyone is trying to outperform each other on the same metrics, rather than thinking independently. He uses examples like elite education to show how competition narrows creativity. Students fight to get top grades, attend Ivy League schools, and land high-status jobs, often without stopping to ask what they truly want or where they can make a unique impact. Thiel calls this a tournament mindset, a race where the finish line is set by others. In business, this manifests as copycat startups and endless iterations of the same idea. For example, 1,000 food delivery or dating apps compete with slight variations, but very few try to build something totally new. Thiel points out that while competition can drive improvement in existing systems, horizontal progress, it rarely produces breakthrough innovation, vertical progress. He explains that fierce competition erodes profit margins, leads to burnout, and forces businesses to focus on survival rather than growth. Meanwhile, monopolies that escape competition can focus on innovation, improving their products and planning for the future. Thiel also highlights how competitive thinking blinds people to opportunity. When everyone is focused on outperforming rivals, they stop asking deeper questions like, what problem hasn't been solved yet? What unique value can I create? His key message is that competition is not the path to greatness. In fact, it's often the opposite. True innovators don't compete. They break away from the pack. Instead, try to be better than others. Aim to be different. To carve out a space where you're the only one doing what you do. Chapter 5. Last Mover Advantage. In Chapter 5, Peter Thiel discusses the concept of last mover advantage, which turns a typical first-mover advantage idea on its head. While being first to enter a market can be helpful, Thiel argues that being the last to dominate and maintain long-term monopoly power is far more important. He explains that a successful business doesn't just create a great product, it creates durability. The companies that win are not the ones that start first, but the ones that end last, meaning they continue to dominate the market for decades. For Thiel, the real advantage lies in creating a defensible monopoly that lasts. To build a lasting monopoly, Thiel outlines 4 key characteristics. Proprietary technology. This is the most powerful advantage. Your technology should be at least 10x better than the next best alternative. Without that, people won't switch. Network effects. A product becomes more valuable as more people use it. Social media platforms and marketplaces like Facebook and eBay benefit hugely from this. Economies of scale. As you grow, the cost of doing business per customer should decrease. Large-scale operations can serve more people at lower marginal costs. Branding. A strong brand can be a mode if it's backed by substance, not just marketing. Apple, for instance, combines branding with technology and design. Thiel cautions against focusing only on growth and scale early on. Instead, he advocates for starting small, owning a specific niche market, dominating it, and then expanding outward. This focus allows a company to build strength and prevent competition before growing. He references Amazon starting with just books before moving into everything. He also points out that companies should aim to become monopolies, but do so discreetly. While monopolies benefit businesses, they attract scrutiny from the public and regulators. So, companies tend to underplay their dominance, while non-monopolies exaggerate their uniqueness. The takeaway is that lasting success depends on building a monopoly and scaling it strategically, not just on being first. The best companies don't win by sprinting out a gate. They win by outlasting competition and owning the future. Chapter 6. You are not a lottery ticket. Chapter 6 challenges the belief that success, especially in startups, is a matter of luck. Thiel criticizes the widespread indefinite optimism of modern culture, where people hope things will work out without planning or understanding how. He firmly believes that success is not random, and that people should live and work as if their actions truly matter. He draws a contrast between definite and indefinite thinking. Definite optimists believe the future will be better and work to build it with clear plans. Indefinite optimists believe the future will be better, but have no idea how it will happen. They rely on chance. Definite pessimists believe the future will be worse and prepare for decline. Indefinite pessimists fear decline, but do nothing because they think nothing can be done. Thiel argues that Silicon Valley and most modern institutions have become indefinitely optimistic, where people avoid bold plans and favor small, incremental steps. This mindset leads to mediocre results and a culture of lottery thinking, where success is seen as a fluke rather than something to be built deliberately. He urges entrepreneurs to reject the idea that great companies or careers come from chance. Instead, they should believe that the future is knowable and controllable, and success is a result of vision, planning, and execution. He also criticizes venture capitalists who spread their bets across many startups, hoping a few will succeed. Thiel believes in the power law, where one big winner often accounts for most of the returns. So, instead of treating startups like lottery tickets, investors and founders should focus intensely on creating something truly great and unique. The key message: don't live your life as if you're gambling. Have a vision, make plans, build something meaningful. People who believe they have control over their future are far more likely to achieve remarkable things than those who wait for luck to strike. Chapter 7. Follow the money. In this chapter, Peter Thiel explains how startup success is tied to understanding the power law, a concept that most people and even investors fail to grasp. The power law states that in many fields, especially venture capital and startups, a small number of investments or efforts produce the majority of results or returns. Thiel emphasizes that in any large group of startups, only a few will generate most of the profits. For example, in a venture capital portfolio of 100 startups, it's likely that 1 or 2 startups will deliver more value than all the others combined. That's the power law in action. Because of this, the traditional idea of diversification doesn't work well in venture capital. Thiel criticizes VCs who spread small bets across many companies, hoping that one or two might succeed. Instead, he argues that VCs should focus deeply on identifying and backing the one company with potential to dominate a market. He shares his experience with PayPal and Facebook to demonstrate how massive returns often come from bold, concentrated bets. For instance, investing early in Facebook turned out to be one of the most profitable decisions in his career. Thiel also warns entrepreneurs and investors not to get distracted by safe or average opportunities. You don't want to build a company that is good at many things but great at nothing. Instead, you should aim to create a startup that can become the best in the world at one specific thing. The message here is that your time and resources are limited, so they should be focused on opportunities where potential payoff is disproportionately large. This mindset applies not just to investing, but to careers, startups, and life decisions. Rather than playing it safe, you should identify the one thing that can truly change the game and go all in on it. Chapter 8, Secrets. Chapter 8 dives into the idea of secrets, things that are true but haven't been discovered or widely accepted. Thiel believes that the most valuable companies are built on discovering and solving these secrets. The core message is, there are still secrets left to uncover, and those who find them create great value. Thiel argues that modern society is skeptical about the idea of secrets. In a world that seems overly explored and documented, many people believe there's nothing new under the sun. This belief leads to complacency and a lack of curiosity. But Thiel says that the world is full of hidden truths, both in nature and in people. Secrets come in two types. Secrets of nature, undiscovered laws or scientific truths. Secrets about people, underappreciated behaviors, needs, or desires. Entrepreneurs succeed by discovering secrets that others overlook and turning them into valuable businesses. For example, Airbnb discovered the secret that people would trust strangers in their homes, something that seemed absurd before. Uber uncovered that people wanted easier, cheaper, and more transparent urban transport, something traditional taxis fail to provide. Thiel urges entrepreneurs to ask bold questions. What valuable truth do very few people agree with you on? What is something important that nobody is doing? What problem exists that no one else has tried to solve? He believes that secrets are often hidden in plain sight, and those who are willing to think differently, question assumptions, and explore the unknown are the ones who find them. The chapter ends with an inspiring message. Great businesses are built by discovering secrets and acting on them. If you want to create a truly innovative startup, don't follow the crowd. Go in search of something new, valuable, and undiscovered. Chapter 9, Foundations. Chapter 9 of 0 to 1 focuses on the crucial importance of laying the right foundations when building a startup. Peter Thiel argues that how a company is started fundamentally shapes its future success or failure. Founders must pay careful attention to early decisions involving team formation, culture, ownership, and roles because these decisions have long-lasting effects. Thiel begins by emphasizing that startups are unlike large corporations because startups operate in extreme uncertainty and are still figuring out their product-market fit. Early structural decisions become magnified. In other words, the foundations you lay in the first days and weeks of your company influence its trajectory for years or even decades. One of the first key points Thiel makes is about the importance of choosing the right co-founders. Co-founders should be people you deeply trust and with whom you share core values and vision. Since startups require long hours and hard choices, misaligned teams tend to fracture or waste time on infighting. Thiel warns that co-founder disputes are among the top reasons startups fail. The chemistry and trust between founders must be rock solid. He also highlights the importance of clearly defining roles and responsibilities early on. Overlapping or unclear roles can create confusion and slow down decision-making. Startups move fast, so founders must know who owns what and where final decisions lie. Next, Thiel stresses the significance of ownership structure. In many startups, founders dilute their stakes too quickly by bringing in early investors or employees without proper agreements. This can lead to founders losing control and motivation. Thiel encourages founders to maintain meaningful equity and control, especially at the start, to ensure they stay invested in the company's long-term success. Culture also plays a foundational role. Thiel believes that culture isn't just about perks or buzzwords. It's the collective behavior and mindset of team. Early hires are extremely important because they set the tone for the entire organization. Culture determines how employees communicate, solve problems, and innovate. Another vital point in this chapter is about planning for the future, but staying adaptable. While startups must have a vision and strategy, they also need to be flexible enough to pivot or adjust when new information arises. Founders should create a clear mission, but not be so rigid that they ignore feedback or market signals. Thiel discusses how companies with strong foundations can attract better talent and investors. Investors look for startups with cohesive teams, clear leadership, and a strong vision. Early structural clarity signals to outsiders that the company is well managed and prepared for growth. The chapter closes with some practical advice. Spend significant time up front working through founder agreements, roles, culture, and mission statements. These may seem tedious or secondary compared to product development, but they create the scaffolding on which a startup can build and scale. In summary, foundations are the invisible architecture of startups. They determine whether a company can grow sustainably or collapse under pressure. The best founders understand that starting well isn't just about having a great idea. It's about building the right team, creating ownership alignment, and setting a culture that will endure. Founders who invest in these early stages give their startups the best chance to go from 0 to 1, to create something truly new and lasting. Chapter 10: The Mechanics of Mafia. In Chapter 10, Peter Thiel explores what he calls the mafia culture within startups, the close-knit, mission-driven team that powers a company's growth and innovation. The term mafia here refers to a group of people bound by strong loyalty, shared values, and deep commitment to a company's mission. Thiel argues that great startups are not just about technology or business models. They are about building a culture and team that acts like a tight, committed family. This startup mafia mindset creates a foundation for intense collaboration, resilience, and ambition, which are essential for breakthrough innovation. The chapter begins with Thiel explaining how early employees are more than just workers. They are co-creators and evangelists. These people are fully aligned with the company's mission and willing to go beyond their job descriptions to solve problems and push boundaries. He contrasts this with larger companies where employees often work in silos or simply follow instructions. Thiel highlights the importance of recruiting the right people who are not only talented, but also deeply believe in the mission. Startups need people who are willing to commit for the long haul and be part of something bigger than just a paycheck. He stresses that hiring is one of the most critical activities a founder undertakes. The wrong hire can hurt morale and slow progress, while the right hire can multiply the company's potential. He uses PayPal as a prime example of this mafia culture. The early PayPal team was famously tight-knit, highly ambitious, and loyal. The company's culture was one of intense focus, risk-taking, and mutual trust. This culture allowed them to move fast, challenge assumptions, and win against bigger competitors. Thiel explains that building such a culture requires clear communication of vision and values. Everyone on the team must understand why the company exists and what it aims to achieve. This shared purpose motivates people to work through challenges and setbacks. The chapter also discusses the downside of lacking such a culture. Companies can become bureaucratic, slow, and fragmented. Without a strong internal culture, startups risk losing focus and wasting energy on internal politics or misaligned priorities. Thiel advises founders to be deliberate about maintaining and nurturing the culture as the company grows. Culture can be diluted by rapid hiring or outside influences, so leaders must be vigilant in preserving the company's core values and behaviors. Finally, Thiel touches on the importance of trust. The mafia culture is built on trust among team members. Trust that each person will do their part, share credit, and put the company's success above personal gain. This trust enables fast decision-making and reduces the need for bureaucracy. In conclusion, Chapter 10 makes a compelling case that culture is not just a nice-to-have in startups. It is a critical success factor. The most innovative companies build strong, loyal teams that act like a mafia, united by a mission and ready to do whatever it takes. Founders who understand and cultivate this culture lay the groundwork for sustainable success and true innovation. Chapter 11. If you build it, will they come? In Chapter 11, Peter Thiel addresses a critical misconception many startups have: the belief that building a great product automatically guarantees customers. The idea that if you build it, they will come is a myth. Thiel emphasizes that no matter how innovative or valuable a product is, without a well-planned sales and distribution strategy, it will likely fail to reach its market potential. Thiel opens by pointing out that many entrepreneurs obsess over product development, but neglect the equally important challenge of getting the product to customers. For a startup to succeed, product excellence must be paired with effective sales, marketing, and distribution. Thiel breaks down sales into a nuanced art form. Unlike the stereotypical image of pushy salespeople, selling in startups involves building trust, education, and personalized communication with early customers. For complex or novel products especially, customers may need help understanding the benefits and how to integrate them into their routines or businesses. He also highlights the misconception that sales are only necessary for old-fashioned or boring industries. Thiel argues that even most innovative startups, think of Google or Facebook, use highly sophisticated sales and distribution tactics. The difference is that these companies are very deliberate and strategic about how they scale their sales efforts. Distribution is where most startups stumble. Thiel explains that the distribution channel is as important as the product itself. A product without a scalable distribution channel is unlikely to grow or become a monopoly. Startups must think carefully about the paths customers will use to find, learn about, and buy the product. The chapter explores various distribution strategies, such as viral marketing, direct sales, partnerships, and platform approaches. Thiel points out that companies need to tailor their distribution method to their product and market context, rather than blindly copying others. Another key point Thiel makes is about sales as a repeatable process. The best startups build sales models that can be systematized and scaled. This repeatability is essential for moving beyond initial customers and achieving exponential growth. Thiel also stresses the importance of starting small and scaling sales carefully. Early customers are often the hardest to reach and sell to, but they are critical for generating momentum. A focused sales effort in a specific niche can build a strong foundation before broad expansion. Finally, Thiel debunks the notion that marketing and sales are somehow lesser than product development. He argues that sales is a creative and critical part of building a successful company. Without effective sales, even the best technology will fail to make an impact. In summary, Chapter 11 teaches that building a great product is necessary, but not sufficient. Startups must also master the art of distribution and sales to truly succeed. Founders should develop a clear sales strategy early, focus on distribution channels that fit their product, and be ready to adapt their approach as they grow. Chapter 12, Man and Machine. Chapter 12 explores the relationship between technology, human work, and the future startups. Peter Thiel challenges the prevailing view that technology will inevitably replace human workers and that automation leads only to job losses. Instead, he offers a more optimistic vision where technology and humans work together to create new opportunities and value. Thiel begins by discussing the common fears of automation, that robots and AI will eliminate jobs and concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. He acknowledges that some jobs will disappear, but argues that history shows technology often creates new jobs and industries. Rather than viewing humans and machines as competitors, Thiel encourages entrepreneurs to think about how technology can complement human skills. He argues the future belongs to companies that integrate machines and humans in ways that amplify human creativity and productivity. He provides examples of startups that successfully combine technology and human talent. For instance, some companies use algorithms to handle routine tasks while relying on human judgment for complex decisions. This hybrid approach can produce superior outcomes and new forms of work. Thiel also criticizes the notion of zero-sum competition between humans and machines. Instead, he advocates for a mindset of collaboration where technology is a tool to empower people rather than replace them. The chapter touches on the idea of complementarity, where machines do what they do best, data processing, pattern recognition, and humans focus on what machines can't do, creativity, empathy, strategic thinking. The synergy between man and machine can unlock innovations that neither could achieve alone. Thiel uses the example of Google's search engine, which combines algorithms with human feedback to improve search results continuously. This cooperation has created a product far more powerful than either human or machine alone could produce. He also explores the future potential of AI and machine learning, but warns that the promise will only be realized if companies use these technologies thoughtfully and strategically. Simply automating old processes without rethinking them won't create breakthroughs. Thiel calls on entrepreneurs to be optimistic about technology's potential and to build companies that leverage both human and machine strengths. He believes the startups that succeed will be those that reimagine work and technology as partners rather than rivals. Finally, Thiel cautions that those who fail to adapt to this new reality may be left behind. He encourages founders to embrace new technologies, rethink traditional roles, and create new systems where man and machine can coexist and thrive. In conclusion, Chapter 12 delivers a hopeful and strategic perspective on the future of technology and work. It invites entrepreneurs to see machines as enablers rather than threats and to build startups that unlock new value through human-machine collaboration. Chapter 13, Seeing Green. Chapter 13 of 0 to 1 centers on clean technology, clean tech, and a lesson startups and investors can learn from the boom and bust of clean tech in the 2000s. Peter Thiel uses this chapter as a case study to highlight the pitfalls of hype-driven investing and the importance of fundamentally sound business principles. The chapter begins by recalling the tremendous enthusiasm and capital inflow into clean tech companies in the mid-2000s, driven largely by fears of climate change and the promise of revolutionary energy technologies. Governments and venture capitalists poured billions into clean tech startups, hoping they would create transformative energy solutions and capture enormous market share. However, Thiel argues that most clean tech startups failed spectacularly, leading to massive losses for investors. The problems were not due to the goal of clean energy itself, but rather the poor execution, misunderstanding of markets, and flawed business models that characterize many of these companies. A key takeaway is that many clean tech ventures try to compete in zero-sum markets dominated by established players with entrenched advantages. They underestimated the complexity and capital intensity of the energy industry, which requires massive infrastructure and long development times. Thiel points out that clean tech companies often ignored basic lessons of monopoly and competition outlined earlier in the book. Instead of finding unique niches or creating new markets, many tried to compete head-on with giants, leading to price wars and eventual failure. He contrasts this with more successful startups in other sectors that created monopolies by developing proprietary technology, network effects, and strong branding. Thiel stresses that startups must focus on building a unique product or service that avoids direct competition. The chapter also discusses the role of government subsidies in clean tech's rise and fall. While subsidies help fuel investment, they also mask the underlying weaknesses of many business models. Companies that relied heavily on subsidies rather than genuine technological or market advantages struggled to survive when subsidies were reduced. Thiel concludes that clean tech's failure offers a broader lesson. Technology alone is not enough. Successful startups must combine innovation with sound economics, scalable distribution, and monopoly building strategies. He advises entrepreneurs to be skeptical of hype and to focus on creating truly differentiated products that can dominate their markets. The clean tech crash is a cautionary tale about the dangers of investing in ideas that sound good politically or socially, but lack the fundamentals for sustainable business. In summary, Chapter 13 uses clean tech as a vivid example of how startups can fail by ignoring key principles of competition, monopoly, and distribution. It reminds founders and investors that vision and social good must be matched with rigorous business discipline to go from 0 to 1. Chapter 14, Epilogue, Stagnation or Singularity. The epilogue of 0 to 1 reflects on the broader themes of the book and looks ahead to the future of innovation and progress. Peter Thiel presents two contrasting visions for the 21st century, stagnation or singularity. Stagnation represents a future where technological progress slows down or halts, where society continues to muddle through incremental improvements without breakthrough innovations. In this scenario, economic growth is sluggish and global challenges like climate change, inequality, and resource scarcity become harder to solve. Singularity, on the other hand, represents a future of rapid technological advancement, where new inventions and discoveries create profound changes in society. This vision includes radical breakthroughs in AI, biotechnology, energy, and other fields that transform how humans live and work. Thiel expresses concern that the world today leans more toward stagnation. Despite incredible potential, we see less radical innovation than in previous eras. Thiel attributes this partly to cultural, educational, and political factors that discourage bold entrepreneurship and risk-taking. He warns against complacency and argues that the biggest threat to progress is the belief that it's impossible to create something new. This mindset fosters incrementalism and mediocrity, rather than visionary thinking. The epilogue reiterates the book's core message. True progress requires going from 0 to 1, creating something entirely new, not just copying what already exists. Thiel challenges entrepreneurs to embrace optimism and take on the hard task of building the future instead of settling for the present. He also emphasizes that innovation must be intentional and purposeful. Breakthroughs don't happen by accident, but through deliberate effort, clear vision, and relentless execution. The epilogue closes with a call to action for founders, investors, and society as a whole to rekindle the spirit of innovation, encourage bold ideas, and build companies that create new technologies and industries. Doing so, Thiel believes, will unlock a future of prosperity and opportunity. In essence, the epilogue is a philosophical reflection on the stakes of innovation. It underscores that the future is not predetermined. It depends on the choices and actions of today's entrepreneurs and thinkers. The decision is between stagnation and singularity, and Thiel's hope is that more will choose the path of bold creation. So what's the biggest lesson from 0 to 1? It's this: don't compete, create. The future belongs to those who invent, not those who imitate. If you want to build something meaningful, a business, a product, or even a new way of thinking, you need to stop moving in crowded lanes and start carving your own path. Thanks for watching this deep dive into 0 to 1 here on Read Glow. If you found value in this video, hit that like button, share it with someone who dreams big, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful book summaries made simple. Until next time, keep thinking boldly, and remember, every great future starts from 0.